All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm so happy to see everyone's faces. Thank you for coming out for this amazing event. I hope you got some delicious food. Thank you to all the High Road employers who are here, who are serving us. Yes, let's give them a round of applause. Let's also give a round of applause for all of the folks who are serving us today and who helped make this event possible from this event center and from One Fair Wage. Let's give them a round of applause. And you know what? Let's give yourselves a round of applause for being here too. Why not? Because we're all important. And we're all here through difficult times, right? I'm very excited. My name is Nikki Cole, and I will be your MC for this evening. We have a really awesome lineup of people to speak to us today about what's happening in this moment in the world of tipped workers' wages and the restaurant hospitality industry. And just a little bit about myself, very, very quickly, because I want to keep us on time. I myself am a former hospitality worker and have been part of the fight for One Fair Wage for about 13 years, and I'm really honored to be a part of this fight with Saru and with everyone who's a part of One Fair Wage, everyone who's been a part of ROC, and any of the coalitions and groups who have helped us get where we are today. Today we are going to hear from Saru, of course, and I hope you're as excited as I am about her new book. She will be here to sign at the end, so stick around for that. We're going to hear from Saru more about this moment in time and how we got here. And then I'm very excited, we're going to be hearing from Ifoma and Dia, if Dia is able to show up. That's DC traffic, so we'll give him a little time. But tipped service workers, restaurant workers who are at the forefront of this fight. And we'll be hearing from several amazing High Road employers later this evening, and some awesome representatives, Senator Gillibrand and Representative Schakowsky, and a whole host of other people. I hope you were able to stay for the whole time. Without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and announce and bring on up Saru Jayaraman, the co-founder and president of One Fair Wage and the director of the Food Labor Research of Food Labor Research Center at UC Berkeley. Saru, come on up.
I'm going to take off my mask and stand far away from you. But thank you so much to Nikki. For those of you that don't know, Nikki was featured in one of my first books, Behind the Kitchen Door. So if you get a chance to read that, you can read Nikki's story. She's, as she mentioned, been a leader on this issue for so long. And she and Ifoma and Dia and so many other incredible workers, Brian and Kim, who I believe is here from New Hampshire, we are worker leaders all over this country who've been fighting to raise, and Thrifty, who've been fighting to raise wages, and particularly in the restaurant industry, but service sector wide. And so this book that I have coming out now, November 2nd is the official pub date, but we have copies for people here today. It's particularly special. I've written a lot of books, I've done a lot of book tours, but this moment is so different and so special because it really is the culmination of 20 years of fighting on this issue. We're at a climactic moment, which I'm about to share. We're on the precipice of enormous victory, and at the same time, we're on the precipice of changing something that has been around for 150 years since emancipation of slavery. So I want to thank especially our champions in Congress, Senator Gillibrand, Rep. Schakowsky, who've been so incredible leading on this issue, for all issues, particularly for women workers. I want to thank our board members who are in the room, Zav and Bob and Shukla and Connie. I want to thank our staff, Shamila Mana, Julio Mamdu, Laura, everybody who contributed to today. I want to thank all of our allies in the room. I'm not going to do everybody justice, but thank you so much for your support over the years. Funders who are here, and our amazing High Road employers. We've got about 25 amazing High Road employers from all over the country, Massachusetts, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, Illinois, Michigan, what am I forgetting? California, West Virginia. We have an employer from West Virginia here. Who am I forgetting? I can't even hear, but amazing employers. Washington, D.C., Jose Andres provided food from World Central Kitchen on this side of the room, as Nikki mentioned, and I hope that you'll get to sample some of the amazing fare from the higher employers. On this side, it looks like more food is arriving. So please feel free to eat while we're talking, but I did want to share this extraordinary moment that we're in and then let Senator and Representative tell you more. So we have experienced this moment after 20 years because we've been fighting for it for so long. Even prior to the pandemic, the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers was a problem for literally millions of workers across the country. So many of you know I co-founded this organization with Mamdou, who worked at Windows on the World, the restaurant at the top of the World Trade Center. Mamdou, can you turn around and wave hello? And just last month, we commemorated the 20th anniversary, and thank you, Senator Gillibrand, for being there, of workers who lost their lives at Windows on the World and the families of the victims, and the 73 and the 250 workers who survived, including Mamdou. So we started the fight then and grew nationally, listening to workers all over the country. What are your top concerns? And everywhere we went, workers would say, it's our wages, it's our wages, it's our wages, which made sense once you learned the data, which is that this has been the largest and fastest growing industry in America prior to the pandemic, but has always been for generations the absolute lowest paying employer, thanks to the money, power, and influence of the National Restaurant Association, which we call the other NRA, and which we know has been around for over a century, since just after emancipation, demanding the right to hire newly freed slaves, not pay them anything at all, and have them live entirely on tips, which at emancipation was a mutation of the notion of tipping. Tipping was always intended since feudal European times to be an extra or bonus on top of a wage, but it became a replacement for wages because of the desire to hire black people and not pay them anything, and that became law in 1930. And I'm sorry I'm talking so fast, but I know people need to go. So we saw this become law in 1938 as part of the New Deal, when everybody got the right to the minimum wage for the first time, except for millions of black workers, including farm workers at the time, domestic workers, and tipped restaurant workers who were told you get a $0 wage as long as tips bring you to the full minimum wage. And we went from zero in 1938 all the way to the whopping and incredible $2.13 an hour today. Today, 43 states and Washington, D.C. persist with this legacy of slavery. The population of 14 million restaurant workers and 6 million tipped workers is overwhelmingly women, almost 70% women, mostly women working in very casual restaurants, IHOPs, Denny's, Applebee's, struggling to make ends meet, struggling with the highest rates of sexual harassment of any industry. So those of you that lived in D.C. in 2018 probably remember us putting this issue on the ballot in 2018 and winning, and a very vitriolic fight where the Restaurant Association of Metro Washington overturned the will of the people and pushed the wage back from $15 back down to $5 an hour, where it is today. So that happened in multiple states. We won, and then they pushed it back. And when we saw them keep doing that, we realized we've hit a nerve. Clearly, this is a bigger issue than just tipped restaurant workers. This is fundamentally about wanting to get away with not paying some people a minimum wage, and we began to realize this was a bigger fight. And the book that has come out today is not just about tipped restaurant workers. It also tells the story of tipped car wash and tipped nail salon workers who also get a sub-minimum wage, parking attendants who get a sub-minimum wage, incarcerated workers who get a sub-minimum wage because of the exception to the 13th Amendment that allows for slavery in the case of incarceration, workers with disabilities who get a sub-minimum wage, gig workers who get the equivalent of a sub-minimum wage, and youth who get a sub-minimum wage in many states. Clearly a bigger fight. But then something happened once we realized it was a bigger fight, and it was the COVID-19 pandemic, which shut down the restaurant industry. 6 million workers lost their jobs. 2/3 of restaurant workers, service workers, told us they actually couldn't get unemployment insurance because in most states they were told their wages were too low to qualify for benefits. And then they went back to work last summer. They found their tips had gone way down, and customer hostility and sexual harassment had gone way up, with thousands of women reporting to us, I'm repeatedly asked, take off your mask so I can see how cute you are before I decide how much to tip you. And that was the moment last year, not this year. The press got it wrong. That was the moment last year that millions of workers left this industry. They left en masse. It was an exodus. We were on wage strike last year saying workers are leaving, workers are leaving.
And it wasn't until this year when governors and mayors finally told restaurants you can reopen, you can have indoor dining, that everybody realized we were right. People had left, and they had left in the millions because the wages were too low, the risks were too high, and asking somebody to enforce social distancing and mask rules on the same people you have to get tips from was an impossible situation, and people left. We surveyed 3,000 workers in May. 54% of workers who remain in the industry say they're leaving, and 80% say the only thing that will make them come back to work in restaurants is, guess what, a full minimum wage with tips on top. They've had enough. They have had enough. And in response, that most amazing, beautiful thing happened, a silver lining of our pandemic, which is that we have now documented nearly 3,000 restaurants nationwide paying a median wage of at least $13.50 plus tips, including over 120 restaurants here in Washington, D.C., now paying 15 plus tips. Many who said it couldn't be done, many who said we'll never survive if you make us pay a full minimum wage, now paying it. And as a result, when we refiled our ballot measure this year to raise the wage to 15, the head of the Restaurant Association called me and said, let's talk, and we're now in dialogue about legislation to end the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers even faster than our ballot measure, and we are working with city leadership to get this done this year. A huge reversal, and we're seeing the same reversal in New York and Massachusetts. We're hearing from restaurant associations in multiple states. They don't want to fight anymore. They actually want to do this because everybody's doing it. They want a level playing field, and they need policy. They need Congress and state legislatures to make this happen because they need their back, and they need a signal to workers, this is going to be permanent wage increases. It's worth coming back to work in restaurants. And so we are at this precipice of historic change. We need to pass the Raise the Wage Act. We really thank our champions who are going to come up here right now and tell us about it. And we are asking you to do three things. One is to go to betterrestaurantsdc.org. And if you live here in DC, be a part of the ballot measure because it is driving the city council bill that's going to end this here in DC once and for all. Two, go to onefairwage.org, our website, take action. Tell senators, communicate that we need to get this done. And lastly, on that same site, you will see a website of the now close to 3,000 restaurants paying this wage. Tell them to keep paying it and tell every other restaurant you know they should join the movement that is moving in this direction to end this. We are so close to ending something that has been around since slavery times, and this is the moment to do it. We know people are busy with Build Back Better, but we cannot miss this moment of opportunity. Thank you so much, and I want to introduce one of our biggest champions on this issue in the Senate. Thank you so much, Senator Gillibrand, for being here. Well, thank you, Saru, for your energy, your leadership, your determination, your get-it-doneness, and your unbelievable vision. This is what matters, and you're exactly right, and I think the moment is now. I think we are at a point where the American people have said enough is enough. People lived through the worst year and a half of their lives. They lost loved ones, they lost communities, they lost family members, businesses, jobs, dignity, everything. And so this is the moment they looked at their life and said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to work for 12 hours in a row, 16 hours a row for so little pay. I'm not going to be sexually harassed at work anymore. I'm not going to put up with these conditions and such little pay. They just decided I'm not going to do this. And I think you're quite right. They lived through enough. And I think the indignity of that moment during COVID, where someone checking you out, making you take your mask off, risking your life, risking your family's lives, just to see, are you cute enough? Are you hot enough? Are you enough for me to give you what you're worth in this tip at this moment was too much. And I think that that moment has culminated to where we are today in our advocacy, to actually put ourselves first and say, no, we demand a fair wage at this moment, at this time. We demand fair labor practices. We demand a voice, and that's what we're here for. I want to thank my colleague in the House. We've worked together for now over a decade, and the House and Senate are aligned, and we are going to work tirelessly to get this done. It is a moment, it's a small moment in time. I don't know how much longer we will have a majority in the House and the Senate and have the presidency.
So it's a moment in time where leaders have to lead, and we actually have to govern, and we actually have to realize the vision that Saru and others have had for a very long time. And so that is what this moment is about for me and for all of us. The One Fair Wage movement has been so successful because it's put the stories of workers front and center. It's put the stories of men and women who have labored, who have had burdens, who have suffered, who have carried these burdens, and who have brought forward the stories of others to change the outcome and to change policies in America. It's those stories that make the difference. Too many workers in both skilled and unskilled jobs have struggled. These jobs are supposed to be middle-class jobs. They have not been for a long time. Workers are working too long of hours, getting too few dollars for far too long. They are earning sub-minimum wage for back-breaking work. It is not acceptable. No one should be earning a sub-minimum wage at this time in this country. So I've seen a lot of suffering in New York State. I've seen our city brought to its knees. Some would say the greatest city on earth. And I've seen whole industries collapse. The restaurant industry, the Broadway plays, venues, tourism brought to its knees. And we have a chance as a nation to reimagine what our economy should look like. And what we're negotiating right now with our Build Back Better, we're trying to say, what does the workplace look like for America? That's why when we talk about infrastructure, it's not just roads and bridges and new sewer systems and high-speed rail and rural broadband and IT. It's also how do we make sure we have affordable daycare and universal pre-K and a national paid leave plan? How do we make sure that we have equal pay for equal work? How do we make sure we have a living wage? How do we make sure that all workers have access to a living wage? How do we make sure all workers have benefits so that they can be protected in the workplace? That is what we should be talking about as a nation, because those are the guardrails that allow everybody to be working at their fullest economic potential. It allows what will allow America to get back on her feet again, to having this economy surge, and to have us prosper as a nation. So that's why today's event is so important, because it's taking one industry and one group of workers who have suffered for a long time. It's looking at the restaurant industry and restaurant workers. It's looking at an industry that defines America. It's part of the fabric of our culture, of society, of community, of families. We saw the best of the restaurant industry come to help people when kitchens opened up as community kitchens, not as for-profit restaurants, but as a place to gather to feed families who had nothing, to feed families who were homebound. That was what was best in America. We saw it when farmers could no longer deliver their food to restaurants or to schools or to hospitals, where they take them straight to these centralized feeding sites so that food could go where it needed to go. And so we want to reward that. And so we want to build back this industry in a way that rewards those people who really do care, those people who really do want to be the center of our communities, the center of our families, the center of our cities and our towns. And so we're going to do it by helping them build the industry in a way where every person and every group that works within this industry is rewarded for the work that they do. The risks that the restaurant industry had to take and that the workers had to take were unbelievable, because you work with people. When they open their mouths to eat, they open their mouths. It's a risk. Risks are taken. And so you went to work to make sure that these restaurants could stay open, so that people could eat, so that homebound seniors could eat, so people who couldn't leave their home could eat. It was essential work. And so many of you took that so seriously. And it mattered. It truly mattered. So that's why we are committed to you today. We're committed to make sure this industry survives. We're committed to make sure this industry and the workers there can thrive. We're committed to make sure we don't let this moment pass without fighting for a living wage and for the benefits that you deserve. And so we've heard this phrase over and over again, essential worker. You are essential workers. You are critical workers. You are frontline workers. And you deserve fair pay. You deserve one fair wage. You deserve everything, every bit that you have put in to your job, your industry, and that is why we are fighting for you. God bless you, and God bless one fair wage.
Senator Gillibrand, we have some high road restaurants from New York who wanted to just say thank you so much. We have Brian from Casalula, Elisa from Elisa's Love Bites, and Mutale from Locals Brooklyn. And just wanted to let them thank you for being here. They came all the way from New York. And
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Senator.
you so much for
Thanks
doing
for
everything
all your efforts on this cause.
over the last year and a half. It really mattered. And we're so grateful for you being here. And thank you for being at the forefront. It matters so much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
We're very proud of you, and we're very proud of what you do for our wonderful city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Put
so
on-
much.
put on that
T-shirt for
t-shirt.
me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's just give it up again for these amazing New York high road employers. They have definitely been on the forefront of this fight for a long time, speaking up when the majority were afraid or didn't know how. And so, you know what? I'm asking you to give it up for them again, because they have been fighting really hard, sticking their necks out. So thank you. We're finally almost here together. So, quick question. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. Representative Schakowsky, do you still have time to stay with us for a little while, or you want to? Yes. Okay. So, thank you. Up next, I want to introduce IFOMA. And I'm going to ask y'all to clap again and give it up for IFOMA, because IFOMA is one of the essential workers that it's all about, that we've been talking about today. IFOMA, come up here, tell us where you're from, why you left the industry, and why you're fighting to come back for one fair wage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, 1 second, let me take off my mask. My name is Ifoma Izimako, and it is way past time to raise the sub-minimum wage for us tip workers. This legacy of slavery must end. I worked throughout the pandemic here in DC as a bartender, and I've been in the industry since I was a teenager. Living off of tips was hard enough pre-corona, but now workers have been under attack even more during the pandemic. They call us essential and heroes, but pay us a sub-minimum wage and offer us the least amount of protections in the workplace. One weekend night during the pandemic, I was working the bar and a customer asked me to pull down my mask. I said no, and he said, well, I guess you won't be eating tonight. It really shows the power that the customers know that they have over us. The workers. This is exactly what we're talking about right now, an imbalance of power that forces us to rely on the whims of customers. But at least now we have the opportunity to fix all of this. By bringing together rooms like this of workers, employers, legislators, and our allies, we are able to show our power as Raise the Wage voters. Congress must pass the Raise the Wage Act, end a legacy of slavery, end the sub-minimum wage for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ifoma. And next I'd like to call up Mo Carter of the MJB Restaurant Group, along with the Chicago High Road Restaurant crew, to do our next introduction properly.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having us. I am Mo Carter from Chicago. I own the MJB Restaurant Group, doing 3 concepts that started last October. You heard me right, in the middle of lockdown. And it is great to be here. I'm a little bit shaken, but it's so great to be here. Are you missing me? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I sound so loud. Sorry. again, Mo Carter from Chicago. I am here with
I'm Melissa Correa. I'm with Lomita on Wheels in Chicago, Illinois. I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Evans. I own Windy City Ribs and Whiskey in the South Loop, and excited to be here as well.
Sorry for that. Thank you for waiting. I am here as representatives of Illinois to introduce someone I think has been a champion for One Fair Wage, someone who looks out for Illinoisians. I think that's the right way we say that. So I am here to represent from Illinois' 9th, Representative Chakowski.
I have to tell you that I had, I'd like to say the pleasure of being a wait person that Saru arranged for me. And I have to tell you, it was hard and I was not very good at doing it. It's not an easy job. So I am just so happy to be here. I'm glad to be with my sister in the Senate, Senator Gillibrand. I'm so proud to also be here with my former colleague, Tom Perriel. And most of all, I'm so proud to be here with Saru, a force of nature who made this happen. Now, I want to thank all the workers, Fama who spoke, and Mo and Terry and Melanie for all the work. But I want to tell you, I have to say about Saru Jayaraman, that she is one of the greatest organizers that we have in this country right now. One of the most powerful women leaders that we have had. I've worked with her for a long time now. Had her come to one of my huge Ultimate Women Power Lunch. She brought down the house. She inspired people. But the thing that she does is she lifts up with her so many people then who are inspired to be in this fight together. And that is why we are winning. When we fight together, we win. And we are. It's just been remarkable. Of course, I want to thank all the high road restaurateurs, I like that, high road restaurateurs who know that you don't have to pay people as little as possible in order to run a successful business. In fact, the opposite. And what we found, and what you have found, I think, is when restaurateurs, when businesses pay a living wage, people have better attendance at work, have better attitude about showing up, about doing a good job. The morale is always better when people are paid and treated with dignity. Dignity is the key here. And it's also about growing our economy. You know, when wages are up, and let's be clear, right now in Washington, D.C., at the federal level, the minimum wage is $7.25, and the tip wage is $2.13. Think of that, $2.13. But when people make a living wage, what does that mean? They can go out and buy the things that they need from vendors in the community, from shops in the community, from grocery stores, buy shoes, buy clothes, have a life, buy a car, and that helps our economy. And as the President of the United States has said, when we build back better, what we want to do is to build from the bottom up and the middle out, and no longer just from the top down, which has never worked. Never worked. Trickle down has never worked. has done is made the gap between the have and the have-nots greater and greater and greater. And so I just want to say that it's so much more that, we talked about the trials and tribulations of being a frontline worker and working in this industry. And it's not just about the disrespect, but what we have seen, and Saru has taught us about this legacy from slavery, that the good news is that workers can finally start making a living wage, but the good news also is we can stop the harm that these workers have at work. I mean, Saru has told me stories, and you're, I'm sure, going to read about in the book, about what the experience is like. We heard about, take your mask down. It gets worse than that. We're talking sometimes about assault. We are talking about a woman who's going to allow someone, grit her teeth or say what she may inside, to touch her body. Why? Because she needs that money to bring home from a tip, to put food on the table, to be able to pay the rent. And that kind of humiliation, often day in and day out, that too many women in particular have had to live with, is just completely unacceptable, and there is a way to solve the problem, and that is simple. It's to have one fair wage. One fair wage. So we all have to be in this fight together to make it happen. I want to thank the workers for their stamina, for their stick-to-itiveness, for being part of this campaign that Saru has helped start. A movement. It's a movement around this country, and she's right. This is the moment. So let's get it done. Thank you.
Monique and Melissa and Terry, you want to come back and take a quick picture, if you don't mind?
So while we're getting a photo over here, I'd like to go ahead and call up Karina Stum, owner of Ruby's Restaurant. If you can make your way up here.
Sorry, Nikki. That's okay.
Hey, are we in? Yes. Are we all in? Come on.
Yes.
Wait, what? My photo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I did it for you. Thank you, love.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you all on behalf of all the restaurants here today for being here. It's incredibly warming for us to know there's this much support. My name is Karina Stum. I'm the owner of Ruby's West End in Portland, Maine. We opened on April 14th of this year in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of the worst staffing crisis our industry has ever experienced. I'm a one fair wage restaurant owner, paying my team state minimum wage of $12.15 an hour with tips on top, and we need Congress to pass the Raise the Wage Act to level the playing field for restaurants like mine and to send a message to the workforce that we want your talent back and it's worth coming back to. I'd like to introduce Tom Perriel, Executive Director of Open Society of the U.S., former Congressman, friend and supporter of One Fair Wage.
Good afternoon. I am just so excited to be here and so excited to be part of this event. There's very little to add to what Jan and the Senator have said. But we are huge fans of Saru's in this organization. We are very proud to name her a Soros Equality Fellow in the last couple of years. And Alvin and Andrew and the team were excited to give her that support and all the workers that are here. The only two things I'll just reinforce would be, one, just to say, as has been noted, This ultimately is about power. I was thinking about this because there was a woman we used to organize with, Bernadette Atuahane, who did a lot of work in South Africa on the land claims court after apartheid. And they studied what was most effective afterwards in helping to repair people from that damage. Was it education? Was it housing? Was it cash? And the number one determinant was whether or not people had choice in what they got, in how they were repaired. And what it means to pay someone instead of have a tip is to say, this is your money, you have earned this. It's not that person's power to decide whether you can feed your family tonight. That person shouldn't have the power to decide whether you have bodily integrity tonight. You have earned that amount, and you have the dignity to decide. Do you want to go tie one on tonight? Fine. Do you want to bring a little extra dessert home for the kids? Fine. That is the power as a parent, as a friend, to know I've earned this. I put in a solid day's work. I broke my back doing it. And you know what? I'm going to get myself, go to the movies tonight. That choice should be the workers for having delivered these essential services. And when we give that power to the customer in that situation, knowing how disempowered that person is, overwhelmingly women, overwhelmingly people of color, with deep roots, as was noted, in slavery and in misogyny. We are saying every day that Infoma goes to work, she has to be reminded that that person has power over her. Be reminded where she sits in a hierarchy of race and gender, and have it shoved in her face every day when she's trying to do that work. Or do we say, no, those days are over in the United States. She doesn't have to put up with that. No one should have to put up with that. What she does is says, I'm here, I've got a job, I'm going to be treated with dignity, and then when I leave here, I don't owe you anything. I don't need to depend on you. I've earned the right to spend money and support my family the way that I want to do that. That's all we're asking for. And the other thing that I want to say today is there's a basic decision we've got to make as we build back together, which is, do we think we're in this together, or is it every person for themselves? And Jan was talking about this. What is the first thing people do frequently when they're finally making a living wage? You know the first thing they do? They take their family out to a restaurant to eat. So you know who benefits from this program? It's restaurants. And that's not hypothetical. In Seattle, the restaurant industry fought this and fought this and fought this, said it was going to be terrible for small business. You know who benefited the most? Small business. Because when people have a little change in their pocket, they actually go to the local bodega and spend it. In fact, lower wage workers are far more likely to spend that money in the community than richer workers who are more likely to spend it somewhere else. So something else people talk about now, well, if you pay these people $15 an hour, next thing you know, you're going to have to pay these other people $25 an hour. Great. That's exactly what we want, right? And we think about the fundamental problem in the middle of the last century, we had a system that worked for white workers. It was basically something where you could make a living wage, you could work your way up that chain. And when you start to chew away at the bottom, it pulls everyone down with. When you're paying that person $2.15 an hour, $2.13 an hour, and tip wages, then what do you know? The next person's only making $7.25, who a generation ago would have been making the equivalent of $30 an hour. So right now, as Saru mentioned, we are in a positive upward revolution of wages. We are seeing workers strike again. We are seeing workers collective bargain. We are seeing workers get a living wage because all people just suddenly realize, holy mackerel, as my union grandfather would say, holy Toledo for our Ohio folks, we actually have power. We don't have to accept the circumstances, and that's what this pandemic has done. It has handed workers back the dignity to say, I should have some choice in the conditions under which I am working away every day. So we are excited about this book. We are excited about Saru's leadership, about these workers. I mean, we know this from Dr. King. Power is never given by the powerful. It's demanded by the oppressed, right? There is courage in what people are doing every day to step out and say, we are going to stand up and make this demand. And 5 years ago, the amount of lobbying money being thrown against these folks, they literally won the initiative, and then the city council found a way to turn it over. Now those same people are calling her up and saying, we don't really want to go through this again, right? This is a moment, and we have a choice to either turn it into something truly transformative, a very new economy that cares for workers, where we actually help lift each other up and spend more money at restaurants in the process, or where we go back to the idea of every person being an island. I am so excited to be back at a moment where we're talking about a care economy, we're talking about essential workers, and we're talking about one fair wage. Couldn't be more proud to be here and be a supporter of this. Thank you so much.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling the energy. This is a great lineup of speeches. I'm excited about this moment, and let's keep it going. I'm very excited to introduce Zav Briggs, the Senior Fellow at the Brookings Metropolitan Policy Program and former Obama White House official and current board member of One Fair Wage. Come on up and tell us what you're going to tell us.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm very, very privileged to be here with you. And I am here to share just a little bit more about the business case and the economic case. You heard it from Tom, you heard it from Saru earlier, you've heard it from business owners and from workers, of course. Can I start with a political point, though? It is not a partisan point, it's a political point. We are at the stage in this fight where the tide has turned, public is overwhelmingly with us, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Voters in very red states have voted for this increase in their states. Employers are more and more with us, workers, of course. If you are opposed, what do you then do? You make up stuff. You misinform, you conjecture, you create fear about what might happen that's founded on nothing. We need to be not frustrated, not demoralized by that. It happens, again, whenever we are at this stage in a fight for justice and dignity and fairness. What do? We have to dispel the myths. We have to get people the facts and just speak truth to it. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, myth number one. The proposal will force wages to skyrocket overnight from here all the way here. Actually not true. It has always been a proposal for a multi-year stepped up increase. Guess what? Many employers, you heard it from Saru at the start of the program, are moving much faster than that to bring back workers, to bring back talent, to make the restaurant industry, for example, work better and work differently at last. But the proposal would not force that overnight. That's a complete myth. It's come up again and again on the Hill. We have to, again, dispel that myth. Myth number two, businesses just can't do it. It's a well-intended proposal, surely good for workers, but really terrible for America's struggling businesses, especially moms and pops, small businesses, not big chains. This too is false. And the proof, the most powerful proof, you've heard it from several speakers now, is not only the thousands of employers who just in recent months and over the past year have stepped up wages and have a healthy minimum wage plus tips on top. The proof is in the last several years and in those places Tom referenced, Seattle, a first mover on this in the original fight for 15 years ago. The proof is in the many businesses who have made this work and who realize this is not a simple tax on my profits. This is not a zero-sum thing. Retention goes up, training costs go down. It's a different and a better way of doing business. P.S., it puts more disposable income in the pockets of millions of workers across the economy. And that's good for small business, and Tom is right. They saw the signs in Washington State originally years ago, and we've seen it in other places as well. Final myth, recent one. Yeah, that all sounds fine, but inflation has taken off in this country for the first time in years and years. What are we to do? This is the wrong time to raise wages. Well, guess what? The minimum wage was created during the Depression, folks. Let's remember that. Wage floors come to us in a moment where the nation is trying to recover, for the reasons you've heard from other speakers. You build from the bottom up. That's crucial. But in addition, inflation is about, I've been looking at this for many, many years, inequities in our economy, what are the most powerful things we can do about them. Here's the thing about inflation. At the moment, it's driven largely by choke points in supply chains. So it's things like getting computer chips for cars, and completely unrelated to these service industries, which are doing well, but they are struggling to attract workers for all the reasons we have talked about. Best estimates by economists who look carefully at pricing, what drives pricing in a business, when do increases get passed on to customers, and if so, how much, and all of those things. We have many, many years of studying this. Best estimates are that over a decade there would be a modest increase in food prices, and frankly a necessary one on the bottom of the economy. Good for workers and also good for these businesses. And that's, again, gradual. We're not talking about something that's going to happen in the middle of our recovery right now. So we need to be prepared to dispel those myths and make sure people are working from the facts and understand there's not only a really powerful moral case, but a business case and an economic case as well. I've looked at inequality for a long time, worked in communities all across this country and around the world. This is on the short list of the most powerful public policy reforms we can enact to take this country forward. And I'll just underline what others have said. The implications for racial equity and for gender equity cannot be overstated. They're enormously high, and this is the moment, and we have to win. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Zav, for your words and your contribution to this movement. Up next, I'm very proud and pleased to welcome to the stage President of the Black Women's Roundtable, Melanie Campbell.
Thank you, sister. It's just time. You know what I'm saying? I'm listening, and I've got my script and everything I'm gonna stick to, but it's just time to get it done, right? We voted for this. We survived COVID. 2 people lost their lives in the industry. Thank you to the workers. Thank you to the owners of restaurants who already get it. So Saru, thank you, my sister. I know we hadn't worked close together. We've been working really close together of late. And you know, once I connect with you, girl, we family. You know that, right? So thank you for your leadership. Thank you, One Fair Wage, for leading this effort. And it's an honor for me to just be in here today, to be here with all of you here and all of you there. And I want to thank Congresswoman Schakowsky, I think she left already, for being the leader that she is on this issue. I'm here today to say that the fight for voting rights and economic justice are related to this. We've been out here fighting with the Black women and allies over these last 3 months, and we understand that these issues are interconnected. The same people who don't want to pay a living wage don't want voting rights, don't want reproductive rights, don't want racial equity and justice in this country, but we voted for that last year. So we gotta get our friends to understand. We got some friends that we gotta, nonpartisanly speaking, to understand that we put you there to get it done. And so we will continue to fight with you, beside you, in front of you, beside you. And we'll be out there in the streets. We'll go to jail if we have to. I've had to do quite a bit of that lately, right? But it's worth it. It's worth it. We know both workers and democracy have been under attack, as I mentioned, during the pandemic. It's no coincidence that as we are dealing with these threats over this, around what I call justice issues, and I think this issue around fair wage is a justice issue, that the same people, as I said, don't want that minimum wage. We're all here because we know that our current national minimum wage of $7.25 per hour is a starvation wage and is far too low for anyone to reasonably survive working full time. That hourly wage is too low for anyone, let alone a head of household, to afford life's basic necessities. Yet it has been over 12 years since Congress passed an increase in the minimum wage, and even worse, tip workers, mostly in the, as we all know, the restaurant industry, are excluded from this already too low floor. How can it be that the same essential workers who kept this economy going through a deadly pandemic are still subjected to minimum and sub-minimum wages, while billionaires have a booth. Good to see you, my sister. Good to see you. I follow you. When I saw you walking, I said, oh, I'm in the right place too. And the richest Americans have been their wealth exponentially increased. The rich just keep getting richer, and the poor just keep getting poorer, and the middle class is just falling apart. I come from a small town, Mims, Florida. Everybody's heard of it. And I know when I go home, and that's to see my community dying. So the folks who could go work at a restaurant, those jobs weren't there. And if they were there, they couldn't afford. You know, I'm the aunt. I'm going to close. I'm the aunt with no babies of my own, but I have nieces and nephews. So my paycheck is their paycheck, because they work in restaurants. They work in low-wage jobs. They can't afford just housing, let alone a car to drive to get to a better job. So I'm here personally as well to say I'm with you, here to fight with you, and we're going to win. We're going to win together. Thank you.
Ooh, that's the truth. That touched a heartstring of mine. I got nephews in the restaurant industry too. Their first job, and I was crying to my therapist today. I don't make enough money to pay them to, oh my goodness. So I feel you. Thank you so much for that. Up next, I'm very excited to bring up to the stage Shauna Thomas, the president of Ultraviolet. Come tell us how this is impacting women.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Saru, for having me, for your leadership. It's incredible. For the high road employers who are here, who are modeling leadership, showing us what it looks like, why this matters, and how it can work for the people who work in restaurants and other tip jobs. It's an honor to be working with you. I'm, as it was mentioned, I lead Ultraviolet. We are a multiracial, multigender community of over 1 million feminists in every state in this country who showed up to vote and put Democrats in power because they are passionate about raising the wage, because it's their lives on the line. We are nurses, we are teachers, we are business owners, we are factory workers, we are artists, we are caregivers, we're moms, we're restaurant workers. So wage justice for us and 32 million Americans who need a raise have been put off and delayed for far, far too long, as so many of the speakers have so eloquently explained. The pandemic showed in very clear terms, I think for all of us, who's truly holding this country up. And it's not the corporations and special interests that too many politicians right now are serving. It is everyday working people, especially women of color. This country has relied on the essential work of women during this pandemic, whether it's caregivers and their families holding it down with virtual school, or taking care of sick loved ones, or as frontline healthcare workers, risking their lives in overburdened hospitals, or as grocery store workers, servers, cleaners, meat plant workers. It is a special kind of cruelty to continue to expect people to work increasingly harder and more dangerous jobs without getting a raise their work deserves and that they need to support themselves and their families. There is clear momentum here to raise the wage because workers are demanding it and more businesses have to do it. But no one should have to wait for a living wage or be forced to accept inhumane working conditions because their livelihoods depend on tips. A living wage should be the standard across the country, no matter where you work. So today and over the past many months and over the next few months, we are putting our elected leaders on notice that we are organizing and mobilizing to hold them accountable and to support them when they do the right thing. Voters want to see action on raising the wage, and there are consequences both for politicians who refuse to listen to us and the politicians who deliver. We know we can't build back better if we leave all of our workers behind. It is imperative that we raise their wage now. Our health and our lives are on the line. Thank you.
That fire right there, that's why I love Ultraviolet. Give it up, y'all, for Ultraviolet once again, and keep it going for Dara Baldwin, who's going to tell us about
why the disability community is here in solidarity and needs one fair wage too. Give it up for Dara Baldwin.
Thank you, my Nikki. Power to the people! Power to the people! All power to the people! My name is Dara Baldwin, and I'm a disability justice activist, and I'm here from the Center for Disability Rights. We are a CIL, a Center for Independent Living, non-residential centers where people with disabilities go for services. I want to say thank you to all the workers around the country, specifically restaurant workers who are here, but also our disabled workers. I want to say thank you to the One Fair Wage team. You guys are absolutely amazing. I want to say thank you to Senator Gillibrand and Representative Schakowsky, who are phenomenal disability rights activists, and also always, they've been in the street with us fighting and have always supported ending subminimum wage for those who are disabled. And finally, I want to thank my sister, Saru. It's been wonderful getting to know you. It's been wonderful putting this coalition together. For years, people were like, restaurant workers are the lowest paid. And I was like, nope, that's not true. And I want you to take all the things that Saru said and do. Now I want to ask you to add one more. Tell 3 more people what subminimum wage means for disabled workers. We have workers in this country who get paid 2 cents. 2 cents a day, some of them. And it is legal. It is under those laws that were created by the racist FDR and the ableist FDR. He was a racist and he was an ableist because he put those laws in places that broke and that stopped black people from owning homes, from making money, and put disabled people in institutions. Because we had what's called the ugly laws in 1896 that said disabled people cannot be in public. Those started in wonderful San Francisco. They went all the way around the world, and they still exist today. It is why we still have people with disabilities in institutions. They are not considered part of this society. So therefore, they created FLSA, the Fair Labor Standard Act, 14C, sub-minimum wage. You can pay them 2 cents an hour. Right here on the grounds we are at Capitol, there are workers who wear blue vests and clean. They are paid sub-minimum wage on the land where we're supposed to be protecting civil and human rights. NPR, you allow Source America to be one of your people who give you money, one of your sponsors, and Source America is one of the top industries in the country, companies in the country who give sub-minimum wage to disabled workers. Goodwill, you allowed Goodwill executives make millions of dollars, while our people make 14 cents an hour, or sorry, they make 4 cents an hour and bring home $14,000 maybe a year. This needs to end. It is the slavery and the barriers that are put up for disabled people. And the numbers you hear, double them for black disabled. And indigenous, triple it. The unemployment rate in this country for disabled people is at double digits now, almost 25% because of the COVID. But then those who work, some, not all, but many, where people have these certificates, make 4 cents, 2 cents an hour. This must end. Disabled people are already thought to not be part of this community, to be subhuman, and they're being paid sub-minimum wage. We need to Raise the Wage Act passed. That language is in there. 93% of black people came out to vote for you Democrats. Stop giving us 40%. Stop giving us less than what you were told you were supposed to give us. The last thing I want you all to do is go out and get this book, buy it for my sister, give it out to 3 more people you know, and again, tell them about 14C subminimum wage that harms black, indigenous people of color who are disabled, that harms all disabled people. It must end. We must not go over other countries and tell them how to do their work when you are still treating disabled people as if they are not humans. We have the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is 31 years old, going on 32. Act like you got some sense and do right by disabled people.
Thank you so much, Dara. We're going to need that continued fight and energy in order to win it the whole way. As Sarah was talking about, One Fair Wage, it's not just about restaurant workers. It's about folks who are in the disabilities community, folks who are
and a whole broad swath of sectors that a lot of us didn't know about before. I want to bring up John Kavanaugh now, the Senior Advisor at Institute for Policy Studies, to share some more lessons with us.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here with you, and most of it's already been said, so I'll be brief. First of all, it's wonderful to be here and see you all in 3 dimensions. It's really beautiful. Thank you, Saru, for having the guts to have a book party in person. It's a beautiful thing. And also, I want to say one thing. I want to pick up on something Jan Schakowsky, wonderful Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, said, which is a great moment for us in this fight. She said that Saru Jayaraman is the best organizer she knows. Jan Schakowsky is a brilliant organizer, and she's a member of Congress. And we're in a moment now where brilliant organizers have become members of Congress. Pramila Jayapal is the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, an organizer of immigrant rights. Ilhan Omar is the whip of the Progressive Caucus, brilliant organizer. Cori Bush from Missouri is sleeping outside in front of the Capitol fighting for housing rights. Brilliant organizer. They're now in Congress. That's why we have this moment. And I want to challenge you. There are people in this room who should be running for public office. There are restaurant workers, Melanie Campbell, next Congresswoman from Florida, Fekak Mamdouh, next Congressman from Florida. We need you, and it's because of the outside pressure of groups like One Fair Wage and people on the inside like Jan Schakowsky that we will win this fight. I just want to say it's the honor of my organization, the Institute for Policy Studies, to work with Saru to find Congress people who will stand up and be servers for an hour and to work with in the tipped workers fight for over a decade. First with Rock United, now with One Fair Wage. We've had beautiful conversations over this period, and this is the role of research organizations. Saru will tell us of what Zav Briggs just did, of an argument that's being thrown at them. We pull together, we tell her, first of all, what is there and what isn't there in terms of data, but we then put together the reports that help make the case for One Fair Wage. Some of the most remarkable hours we've spent together have been looking at the millions of dollars that the owners of the big restaurant chains make in the National Restaurant Association and comparing that to the tip minimum wage. So huge kudos also for giving us a sense of what the pandemic, both the challenges and the opportunities that it offers. Many of us were in this room 2 to 3 years ago. We knew all of the horrors of the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. Now, on top of that, though, and tipped workers, including disabled workers, including hair and nail salon workers, including car wash workers, we knew they were subject to sexual harassment, substandard benefits, low wages. But for 18 months now, and this is what's so good about stepping back at this moment, we have the jagged, harsh, everyday reality of the pandemic added to the danger of these woes, and tens of thousands of tipped workers have said enough. So now, amazingly, and this is what forces us into a rethink, as Saru has told us, formerly low-road restaurant owners are signaling that in their desperation for more workers, they might respond to workers' calls for justice. So this is the moment to throw in everything we have to win One Fair Wage at this moment. And one other part of our conversation just to throw out here, this was said in passing, there's 7 states that got rid of the sub-minimum tipped wage. A lot of it was in the 1980s. There are Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Montana. There's amazing lessons of organizers in those states that we can cull from as we push to a next wave. There was a wave of those 6 states, then Nevada, that we can cull from those struggles for a new wave from DC to New York to Massachusetts to the whole country. We'll win this together. Let me end with an invitation. Tomorrow morning, the senator, congresswoman, all of our progressive groups are working to push this Build Back Better over the finish line. Most of the groups in that fight have linked to the fight for One Fair Wage. and the fight for 15. Saru explained to Reverend Barber of the Poor People's Campaign the history of in slavery of the tip minimum wage. He joined then the movement for one fair wage, and he has never heard him give a speech for Build Back Better that did not include the demand for the sub-tip minimum wage. He will be out here at 10:30 tomorrow morning. The Center for Popular Democracy, CASA, and others will all be marching together to push this other bill over the finish line and to link it to the fight for one fair wage. So hope to see you all there. Thank you.
That's really exciting. And on the tip of organizing, our final speaker is the president of the Midwest Academy. Heather Booth, come on up here, and I know you probably have some talking points, but tell us what we need to do to keep building power to win this once and for all.
And I hug each of you. When we organize, we can change this world. And you're the people. You are organizing. You are changing this world. I thank you, all of those who are the employees who have been fighting for one fair wage. Thank you for everything you've done for the high wage restaurants who are setting a new standard. Thank you for what you have done. From my sister Saru. Thank you for what you have done. Right now there is a struggle in this country for the future. It is a struggle between hate and division and really the end of democracy itself. It's the destruction of unions. It's the destruction of people with disabilities. It's the destruction of people who are low-wage workers. It's the destruction of people who come from other countries. It's the destruction of everyone except those at the ultra top. And building on that hate and destruction. But on the other side, you stand, you sit, you lie down, wherever we are able. Dara has taught me. And we create a movement for justice. It is definitely about one fair wage. No more slave and starvation wages. But it is about dignity and respect and another vision of this society. Another future that we can build together. And you truly are the champions, the heroes and heroines. By the way, hero in mythology was a woman. You are the heroes who have helped to bring us to this moment. This very day, and all our struggles are linked. There are 10 states in which people are going out of McDonald's, leaving McDonald's, and a walkout, over the fight for $15 and a union. There's, we applaud them. There's a question. Henry Maxwell has helped to lead fights like this for so many years. If I knew more of you, I'd know each of you have played our particular role. That's what we do, that's what brings us here together. This struggle is worth everything we have. We know you are giving it everything you have. And those who are fighting for one fair wage give us courage, give us confidence. At the National Restaurant Association, just as John said, is wondering, are they being forced to negotiate because of the fearsome power of one fair wage? Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing together. We can make a new world for hope, for unity, and for democracy, and for one fair wage.
Yes. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Heather, for your incredible contribution to the movement over the years. Let's not give all the credit to everyone else. You're part of this too. So, in closing, thank you all for coming out this evening. Saru's going to be here to...
I'm so sorry. So sorry. I have to do this. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. We are in Washington, D.C., and we have to say, D.C. stay hood! D.C. stay hood! D.C. stay hood!
You are so right. I should have done that at the beginning. I stand corrected. Thank you. And that is a fight about power and disenfranchised people as well. It's all related. So, in closing, have some more food. It's amazing. It's delicious. It's prepared with love. Eat it up. And chat up the amazing employers who are here. Hear their stories. Hear their struggle. Because at this point in time, when we're on the precipice of winning, is about narrative. We need each of you to go out and talk to your friends, to your allies, to your colleagues about this fight. And we need you to also get Saru's new book so you can further understand the plight and the struggles and the hopes and dreams and the victory that we're almost at of all of the different sectors of workers that we've been talking about today. So she will be over here to sign books and chat up. So definitely do that. And before everyone leaves, I just ask that the IFOMA and other workers who are here, I'm looking at you, come on up along with High Road employers who are here. We'd love to take a big group photo of folks together. So come on up.